Hello once again, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. My name is Tuffner, and today I'm actually going to be bringing you a video that was requested by a viewer. Bizarre, absolutely bizarre that someone would actually want me to continue uploading videos with my nasally horrible voice, but you know, regardless, it's fantastic to know that people actually want to see more content from me. Really is fulfilling. But yeah, I have to apologise firstly for the delay in this video. I actually wanted to create this video about a week ago, but with the release of the Titanfall beta and the fact that I actually got in, my focus was really on that, and I wanted to kind of upload some content for a more, up-to-date game, really. So yeah, sorry about that, guys. I was meant to actually finish off last night, but I actually ended up watching The Dark Knight Returns Part 1 and 2. I'm going to do a separate video where I talk specifically about the Bat, but first off, let me say, before you watch my video on that, just go and watch The Dark Knight Returns right now. It's a thoroughly good use of your time, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. So yeah, guys, I'm going to carry on with the purpose of the video now. So guys, just straight into it here. These were the two weapons I was using in the tips and tricks video. We've got the defib and the ambassador. The defib is the long range weapon, so let me just bring that up here. Okay, so obviously it's a beam weapon. The stock is standard. I feel that if you're using a full auto weapon, there's no real need for any of these shock absorbing or heavy accuracy maintaining stocks, because at the end of the day, if you can point at your target and keep your crosshair on him, there's no real need for anything like this. It just takes a little bit of practice, and that sacrificing damage is a little bit too much to ask in my opinion. So yeah, my recommendation would be to stick with standard. The scope, this is entirely, it's just preference really, personal preference entirely, and how you feel your playstyle is based around. I use the recon scope because I feel the optical zoom is just that little bit too much. So recon scope is the perfect amount for me, and if they get too close, I always have my secondary short range weapon. So yeah, it's just preference really. I did experiment with the iron sight, and that's just as efficient really, but I do prefer that little bit of range that the recon scope offers. Next up, the barrel. Now, obviously, the barrel is quite important. You can opt for the headhunter here, but only if you're going to be using the semi-auto or the 2-round burst mode. As it's still very optimal for this type of build, but it's going to be even more optimal, and you're going to see a lot more damage numbers pop up if you use the semi-auto or the the semi-auto and the 2-round burst there. But I like to stick with the sniper just because it does provide that damage boost, and if I don't hit the head, there's no kind of reduction in damage there, or at least not as much as the headhunter scope would provide. Barrel. Next up, obviously, the trigger is full auto. I'd say with beam weapons, keep it on full auto. Obviously, you can choose to ignore all this advice if you wish, but keep it to full auto. If you're going to be using semi-auto or 2-round burst, go straight back to the rifle chassis. As the rifle, I've found personally, tends to do that little bit more damage if you're using semi or 2-round burst than the rifle does. The beam weapon does. The beam chassis does. Oh god, sorry guys, I've had a bit too much sugar tonight. I'm talking too fast and my hair's all over the place. So yeah, stick to full auto for now. I think that's the kind of optimal trigger for this type of build. The cooling. Now, I've heard that the liquid cooling is a lot better, but the rate of fire is not significantly decreased, but it goes down quite a bit. And for me, it's that I'd like to keep up that steady rate of fire, even if it's at the sacrifice of more damage. So yeah, I stick to standard there. Again, I've experimented with liquid cooling, and it does work, but I've only tried it out in the test arena. And obviously, as you'll know, if you've played a lot of this game, practicing with a weapon in the test arena and then taking it out into an actual a game is entirely different. The circumstances change entirely. So yeah. And last up we have the payload. Now for me personally, I don't like taking any of these for the long range classes. The pyro is for that, if you're going to use it, it's going to be for that mid to short range type damage. Obviously you can use it for a long range, and that's totally a viable option. There's no one saying you can't do that. It still would work, but I don't really like pyro in any sense because I don't like that reduction in damage for the sacrifice of damage over time. The sacrifice of initial damage over time. There we go, finally got that out. So yeah, that's the long range weapon, pretty much summed up. The ambassador is my short to medium range, primarily short range. It's suboptimal at medium range, and it's very crap at long range. So you need to obviously learn when to pull it out at the right times. The stock there, obviously standard stock. Dampening, I unlocked it and I played around with it for a bit, and it is good because it stabilises that little bit of obviously it pulls the crosshairs in for longer, and it's better for kind of medium range type things, and obviously for hip accuracy. But I prefer those meaty short range weapons, which is why I've made this particular build. I like to get as much damage out of the weapon as I can at short range, which is why I don't particularly like using pyro. So yeah, that's the stock there. The scope, just iron sights again, because recon, obviously, when you're using it short range, you know, if your field of view is big enough, you don't really need the recon scope. Because it's a short range weapon, there's no need for you to zoom in. But again, I suppose it's personal preference, you can use whatever you like. Scope doesn't really particularly matter. Barrel, a very important component of this weapon, the Gatling barrel, that's what gives you such a high rate of fire. Again, it throws your stability and your accuracy in every sense off, so only use it if you're good enough at aiming at your target. So yeah, that's Gatling. The most important aspect is the trigger. Now, the spooling mechanism, if you've played Team Fortress 2 and you've played the Heavy, you'll know that with that particular class you have to power up the barrel before it fires a shot. And it's very much the same principle with the spooling mechanism in this game. And it kind of employs it puts across to the player that they have to know, they have to be situational with the weapon. Say, when an enemy's running around the corner, you have to know that you need to charge up the weapon. I say charge up because I'm not aware of the full, the proper term for it. You have to power up the weapon before he gets to you, because that split second, or that full second of not firing a shot at him is going to cost you in the long run if he's good enough. So yeah, it's all about, it's very situational, knowing when you have to, employ it, and yeah, just practice around with it, guys. Any type of build, just practice around with it. No build in this game is crap. It's just you have to kind of change your play style. Magazine, high capacity, this is something you can kind of go without. You can go without the high capacity rounds if you like. Obviously you're going to get that boost in damage if you take the standard, and as they're close range, unless you're a very poor marksman, no offense guys if you've tried this particular build out and you're not hitting your target, but if you're using standard and you're hitting your target, I would recommend going high capacity, because you will kill your target in the amount of time it takes for you to empty that particular clip out. So yeah, that's that. And again, the payload, you can use the Tesla or the Pyro. Again, it's just personal preference entirely. If you don't know what Tesla does, it basically, if there's a number of enemies within the area of effect, it will pass the electricity on to other players and cause them to take damage. And the Pyro, it will reduce the amount of damage you initially do with your bullets, but it will give you damage over time, so it will give you a burn effect essentially. But I don't like the sacrificing initial damage that either of these effects give you. I much prefer that initial punch that the bullets give. So yeah, I tend to keep it like that. And yeah, that's about it really, guys. This is going to be the last loadout video in for a while. As I said before, I'm kind of getting a little bit burnt out on this game, and I don't particularly want to be in the situation where I don't want to play it anymore. So yeah, expect more loadout stuff in the future. It probably within the month, I've no doubt. Just take me a few weeks to kind of get back into it. But yeah, that's about it really, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope you've taken something out of it. I know I babble on like a sugar-crazed idiot. But yeah, I hope you kind of take something out of the game, whether it's, just a component that you didn't realise, what it did particularly, or something like that. But yeah, yeah, that's about it. So yeah, guys, I shall see you in the next video, hopefully. Toodaloo.